If you remember, we asked for some additional stuff late on that we added on this year's budget because we knew it wouldn't be billed into this cycle. So this is.
That's why that's
this
in
is
there,
okay.
yeah, that's what I figured.
Thank you for your vigilance, it's
So,
appreciated.
so and I'll speak again with Dave Allman and just reiterate, we want to make sure we stay calendar year that's in coherent or in concert with the budget. So we don't make things out of hand, because that budget has changed quite a bit in the last year. And the check for the plastic, or the poly, whatever those
Right.
things are, which we
Fire
do not.
retardant, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have, they did test our well, and our well is clean enough. We don't have that wells. That's good. The last thing is number 4 there. I want to show you a picture. I didn't get it on the computer, and hopefully my phone will stay on long enough and it doesn't have any bad pictures on it. This is our glass machine, right?
Yep.
Okay, and the reason all that cardboard and stuff's around there is because obviously it's starting to deteriorate. It's been doing that for years. So that piece is supposed to be one piece,
And it's now 2.
and it's now 2. That, where you can see the open area in between, okay?
Yes.
That bottom piece should be up solid to the top, and around that bottom piece is a thick rubber skirting which forms a cylinder which comes down so the glass doesn't fly all over the place. Okay, and you can see right up in the top, connected to the top head, you can see daylight through the wells where it's all rusted, right up in here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
does
so and you can see the daylight there a little bit better in the top portion,
Yep.
you know, okay? Now, the easiest thing to say, okay, let's trash the glass machine and let's move on to a different approach. So I attacked it like I have everything else. And I called Atlantic, you know, I sat down and said, okay, let's think about it. We can either change the way we do business, we can either fix a machine, buy a new machine, or fix a machine back to doing the operation like we do it. Or we can change the way we do business. And we went through a couple iterations of planning for how we would do that. And we've actually moved a couple things around, because if that thing fails, we don't have the luxury of time. So what I did was I looked at the options. I had Atlantic Recycling. I called the guy up, and he sent a guy out, no charge to us, because they have another Bell glass crusher machine at their site. It's not new, but it's in operating condition. And we may be able to cannibalize the top portion of that machine minus the motor, keep our motor, and they'll keep the motor that they have. And just reattach to that top portion to the 4 bolts that are on the conveyor belt assembly out there. And that would solve the problem short term. Obviously, that's not in the best of shape. It was a machine that was turned in.
And they don't make parts for this machine?
And no, not for this anymore. This is like 20 years old. And the newer machines are much different. They, instead of the blades that go around, they crush the glass. So it's just a different system of operation. So I'm in the process of doing an analysis, and I still have, I've got Waste Management came up, and I talked to Pete LaChapelle, our manager, on the phone, and I went over what are the options to do, you know, get a 30-yard container, put it out around back on the side there where it's easy access to the public, and they could just come and dump the glass. That'll solve a lot of problems, noise problems, all kinds of other things. where it's dumped right into there. And have Waste Management haul it from here to Wakefield, dump it off, and then go through the same recycling process we do there. So again, that's one option, to get charged for that. Whether they would take that 30-yard container and just take it to turn, and give us what it would cost to do that. And a 30-yard container and take it to some other location where they're gonna recycle the glass.
And that's all just bottles and stuff. I mean, it hasn't been
Right,
size reduced at that
correct,
point. Yeah.
correct.
So this is actually the place in the machine where the glass is.
Is crushed. There's 4 blades. The motor comes in and turns around, and 4 blades are attached like this, and they swivel. So that the heavy piece comes, the blade will come back rather than break the blade. But we do break blades every now and then because the glass, the Jack Daniels bottles they're getting pretty thick, And we've had
Skip doesn't know what you're talking about.
right, yeah, and we've actually had people put solid glass things in there, So that top head unit breaks the glass, cracks it up into fairly small pieces, but it's still very dangerous. It's sharp. It's until it's crushed, fine crushed over in Wakefield, which NRA does that. They send one of those large commercial machines up there, and it's $33 a ton to crush that. So that's will be figured into the price. So I'm in the process of getting those options priced out from Waste Management, from Atlantic Recycling, and once I get them from Waste Management, I'll also check with Casella to see if they can do something too. And then I'll present a proposal on what we want to do. But just, I wanted to give you a heads up, because if we change to a 30-yard container, it'll be a change in flow of the organization. If we do that, I'd like to do that before we start the summer. Because we get very busy.
The glass doesn't generate revenue.
No.
It just reduces your flow.
It's all on the avoided cost end of the spectrum,
Right.
where it's either gonna cost us $33 a ton to get rid of it,
Or 100.
or $105 a ton to get rid of it. And then it's a matter of,
And the
does it
alternatives
go
that you're
through?
looking at in between from Waste Management are gonna be somewhere in between.
Right.
And
And
it's a 30-yard container of unsize reduced glass is gonna be, not gonna have as much weight in it as one.
right, we're still gonna move 80 tons a year.
Right.
So it's how many times you move that container,
Right,
and where does the container go?
And what's the charge for moving it?
Exactly.
right.
So that's what I'm in the process of
Okay.
pricing out, and then we'll take the best option. Now, right off the bat, when you look at it, the obvious solution that saves the most money for the town is going to be to repair the machine, because it's only going to cost us $33 a ton, which is what it's costing us now.
Right, right. The-
So
The
they're
only,
charging
the
you-
only, the only additional cost is the repair cost to the machine.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, that was where I was a little confused about that line. The repair isn't based on tonnage. The repair is a number.
Correct, and I haven't gotten
And
that
you don't
yet.
have that.
I don't have that yet. He came out, he looked at our machine, he said it's the same size machine, same manufacturer, so it should, that head unit should go on there. He's gonna go back, he's gonna check that machine out, make sure everything works good, and then he's gonna give me a price. He's also gonna price out, because I have to start working for next year's CIP for the replacement of compactor number 1.
So we need to get a price on the glass crushing machine as well, I think.
If you were to repair the current machine, would it be quieter?
No. No, it'd be exactly the same.
Just restoring
Right.
it to.
To an operable operation that we aren't gonna have to worry about it, well, hopefully not, worry about it failing, and, right away.
Yeah,
But we still should have that on our CIP.
yeah. Yeah, that, this repair is not a long-term.
Correct.
I mean, it may last a year.
My,
or two.
my default position has been, once that machine broke, so our last discussion a couple years ago, my default position was once that machine broke, we would change the flow and put a 30-yard container and haul it out,
And rather than put a new glass
rather than get a new machine. Yeah. The new machine's
have
gonna
some-
be equally as loud.
You'll have some better information to look at. So
Exactly. Once I get Pete-
Waste Management gives you their numbers.
Atlantic Recycling gives me numbers, Waste Management gives me numbers, I'll get numbers from Casella, and then I'll come back to you.
But there's no value added going on here.
No.
I mean, so if you
No,
build the best
it's
crusher
cost
in the
added.
world,
It's cost added. As you go down these options,
Yeah.
the cost to the town goes up.
But even if you bought the best class crusher in the world, you're not benefiting
No,
on the other end. You're not getting any
No.
better price.
still
for
costing
your
us $33 a ton
Right.
to get rid of it
Right.
after.
Okay.
That's it.
That's enough.
Now, you have a project to do preservation on the Quonset hut this year,
Yes. Yes.
and you got somebody identified yet?
Yes. Keeping in touch with him has been difficult, but I will get in touch with him and get that ball rolling fairly quick. I want to get that building cleaned out again. There's been a collection of some stuff in there. It does leak a little bit. We have to find that leak and fix it, which I think is around the opaque section of, where it's steel and then you put an opaque
Panel,
section.
yeah.
Inevitably, that's where it leaks. Yeah, I'll get with him, get going on that.
We're gonna have lots of good weather in the summer and into the fall to do the work, but
Right. No, it's better if
you
you're
get the schedule
ready
lined out
early.
early, and then you got a little flexibility to work with.
Right, exactly.
When the snow's starting to fly in the fall,
Right,
it's a tough time to be trying to do some
right,
preservation work outside.
absolutely. And, yeah, and I'm sure it's like the bridge guys, he's got, half dozen other
Schedule.
projects going on, so.
Right.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Clay.
You gonna hang for a minute?
Okay. Yep.
Jim Bean.
Run down.
Morning, Jim. How are you?
Good, I'm
Never better.
Welcome.
The sun shining,
a little chilly, but
but it's spring.
what they say anyways. Now, so far this year, since January 1st, we're up to 43 different times, or 43 different days that we've had to go out to treat roads or plow roads, which is quite a bit above normal. Normal would probably be between 25 and 30 times, and we're at 43. With the weather, the way it's been this winter too, cold and warm again. We've been filling potholes on dirt roads and filling low spots on paved roads. Been cleaning up the road edges with the debris and ditch lines. Opening up drainage areas. We've actually cut a few dead trees along the roadsides, cleaned them up. And recently I've talked to both Brad Harriman from Ospey and Dave Ford from Wolfboro. And it looks like we're thinking about taking down the signs for the load limits next Monday, April 16th. Most of the roads look pretty good, they're dry enough. The dirt roads are probably the slowest ones, and they both agree to the dirt roads the edges are still a little bit soft in places, but the paved roads are starting to look pretty good, really. I had this sweeper scheduled to come in for this week, but I think at this point we're going to get pushed off until next week. When weather looks a little bit more conducive for sweeping.
Where does that sand go?
It sometimes goes to our facility where we use it just to fill in out back. I do have somebody that's interested in taking some of the sand as spill at their place, which would actually save time and money, so probably don't allow that to happen. We've done that in the past. It's somebody on the fire department, so it's good that they're, you know.
And if you're up by us, you can always, dump it at the top of that brush pile too. Yeah, we've been doing that.
Yep, we'll probably continue, it all depends where we're picking up.
Yeah.
If like when we're at your facility or whatnot, we always do that as well. Yep, whatever's the cheapest to get rid of it at that time as far as time wise, time and material is obviously what we're looking for. I also met with Frank Carroll from FR Carroll Paving Company last week. We drove the roads and we're hoping to get started, real soon with cutting the pavement, removing rocks, the stumps, and the soft materials that are under the areas that we are gonna reclaim. Tentatively have the paving is scheduled for the end of May, beginning of June. And that's all I have for this month.
What roads are we had some discussion
Yep.
in the fall and the winter about what roads are gonna be paved in this year. And at that time, as I remember, the thought was see what things look like in the spring.
Correct.
And as I remember, what's in the mix is the rest of Durgan, with or without a top coat on all of Durgan. A section of Brown Road, a section of Federal Corner Road. There's some discussion about part of North Line Road might be at the top of the pile. And what are you looking at now?
Well, I think, and Frank agrees, we should probably finish Durgan. We're gonna reclaim the bottom of that, and I think we should get the top coat put on this year. I think that's important to get the top coat finished. Then it's up to you guys. We can go with several roads. There's no shortage of roads that could be paved. I don't know if we want to just stick with what we had planned on Brown, which is pretty bad shape on the Wolfboro end. We can certainly look at that together, make that decision. Dame Road really took it tough this year. There's sections of Dame Road that are bad. And there's still the section on the end of North Line towards Ledge Hills end that's deteriorating quite quickly as well. That is a discussion as well. We did do some measuring. He has not got back to me with some prices on some of the stuff we talked about, but he did measure Shirley Way. We've got all that measured. He was gonna come back with prices on that, because I know we talked about that. As well as Federal Corners Road. I know we talked about that. Federal Corners Road doesn't look to be as bad as some of the other ones, but, again, I think it should be a group discussion and see what everybody feels we should do next.
One of the things that we've talked about in the past is additional catch basins in locations. And as with replacing culverts, it would seem to me that's the time, when you're doing a road reconstruction is the time to, if we have catch basins that we gotta add, that's the time to do it. Are any of these roads candidates for catch
Yes.
basins?
Brown Road would be a perfect candidate for that, on that hill section with the S-turn coming down towards Beach Pond. I think that would be a perfect place to do some.
And we talked about the pavement survey that we're gonna do with Lakes Region Planning Commission. We're gonna come around and go through all of the roads. A couple of the things that will help them as we go through the process is a good understanding of what was done to which roads and when. In other words, so we can say that this section of the road had a complete reconstruction in 2009 9, or, I mean, whenever it is, so we can provide them with baseline. They can see what the road looks like today, and knowing when whatever it was done to it, can factor that into their model in terms of going forward, how it's gonna continue to.
I do have a history of the past 10 years
Yeah.
that's available. The town actually has a copy of it as well, of the paving, what we,
Right.
when we paved last. I don't know if they have like a survey they want me to fill out.
Well, that's a good question, and as we get closer to when they start the work, I think we'll have at least one and maybe more meetings with the folks that are involved to go through that. But I'll ask that question as to, if there's some advanced form or something, or list of stuff that we can give you that you can then provide them and they can take forward before they get started. One of the things that I know we talked about before was giving them information on where we have frost heaves, because of course when they do the survey, there aren't any frost heaves because it's in the warmer season, and you have information on that.
It would probably be a good thing just to go by all the roads at this point and either we mark them, which we actually have started already. I have marked some of the ones on Brown Road already. And maybe we, at that point, acknowledge with either photographs or some kind of, maybe by telephone poles or something like that, because the telephone poles are numbered. But we could do something.
Well, the more information we can provide them as they go through the survey, the better the model that they plug all this information into will work for us. So it really works to our benefit to give them as much detail as we can on where the deficiencies are in the roads, particularly the frost heaves, as well as our historical maintenance on these roads. We talked with Chief Shiguri about updating traffic counts on all of the town roads, because that's another piece that goes into their model. Obviously, more traffic wears the road faster than less traffic does. And he's going to be doing updated traffic counts, and I think seasonal as well. Obviously, this time of year, some roads get a lot less traffic than they do in the middle of the summer, and that's all important information. Helps you as well as helps the surveyors.
Sure. Yep.
Karen.
Excuse me, they did share with me too when I sent them the agreement that they want to have a meeting with you folks.
Right.
Kind of like a pre-meeting, so that's coming, I think next month they were thinking, so.
So between now and then I can
Whatever information you can pull
Yep.
together.
Yeah.
Yep.
do what I can to
Yep.
come up with what makes the most sense to give them.
Yep.
I'll give you a copy of the agreement too, I'm sure there's some
Okay, yep.
information in there as well.
That'd be great.
Anything else for Jim?
We got the elephant in the room.
We're back in the last year's situation again, looks like.
Well,
Or worse.
we got the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
budget.
just real
Yeah.
worse.
I mean, you said there's, I think we need to get into some sort of system whereby we examine the whole problem. You said there were 42 storm events.
43, yeah.
I thought you said 42, but, so I did all my math based on 42. It doesn't make that big a difference. So basically, it's costing about $4,700 per storm event. So we need to look at our labor costs, we need to look at our fuel costs are way up. Fuel costs, material costs, and try to come to some grips to what it actually costs to do this. Because we really increased the winter budget this year,
Oh, yeah,
and
luckily.
it's gone. We overspent it by $2,000.
Could be worse, we could be in the state situation.
I'm
They're
sure.
asking for another $4 million.
I'm sure we could be worse. That's not our goal,
Yeah.
though.
No.
Our goal is to get better. So I think we need to start earlier this year. Obviously, we don't have any winter budget left for November, December, which are technically winter budget months. So I guess start the same process we used last year of trying to budget money for different projects, different areas. I honestly, we need to come up with some sort of formula for how this is gonna work, because I can't see us going to the budget committee next year for another, infusion of capital without some basic understanding of what we're doing. I mean, what our cost per storm is, what our labor costs, our fuel costs, our equipment costs are, so that we can justify an increase. So if you think there's gonna be 50 storms, then at least we know how much money that is. I mean, we're kind of guessing at this
Oh,
point.
that's the whole nature of this, is we are guessing.
I mean, what are the average number of storms in a year?
Well, I'm gonna say 25, but what happens is too, it depends when this storm starts. If it starts in the evening, say 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it goes until 5 a.m., geez, that's a lot worse than if it started at 7 in the morning and ended, at 7 at night.
It's worse because of what?
The timing of it, as far as,
Does that affect our expense?
well, it affects trying to be ready for, yeah, it does.
Okay.
We gotta get everything cleaned up, so before the school buses run the next day and everything. And then if it's light snow and it's windy, we're gonna go back out even after we've cleaned up and we're plowing snow drifts. Blows across the road in many areas actually, so we're back out doing that when it's windy and light snow. A lot of freezing rain this year. It's just a lot of different things that happen that I don't think are normal. This year with the,
Well, I mean, the problem with
Well,
whether
last
or not
year
it's
we,
normal or not is that if you overspend the budget by March, then we're not prepared. We're not being prepared. We're not budgeting reasonably for what might happen. So, I mean, is it climate change? Is it
I don't
whatever?
know what to tell you on that. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a guess, as far as the weather for the season. I don't think we were, I think we budgeted correctly in the sense that, how do you know? Ahead of time, it just seemed to be a worse year than normal. Nobody can rightly predict that. I don't think any town is in a different situation than we are.
Well, I think that we have to at least establish what our cost per mile is for road. We need to establish our labor costs, our equipment costs. I've not seen that. So let's try to put that together before we come back.
The cost per mile for,
I want to know how much it costs for each one of those storms for labor, for fuel. You obviously don't have an equipment number in there, but materials, so if you're sanding or salting. I mean, is our labor rate the same rate as the state pays? Is it the same rate that the local community pays? We need to figure out where all this money's going.
well, I think you could ask that to just about every town and the state this year.
Yeah.
I don't see how you think we're different than anybody else.
I'm
We're
not
all in the same situation.
Okay, but I don't have the information in front of me.
Yeah.
So when you provide me with the information, I'm fine with that. But all I'm saying is that you've spent the budget out and it's March. So tell me why, and don't just tell me it's 42 storms. Tell me how much it costs,
Okay.
because we have to get a handle on it. I mean, I can't just say to the average voter on the street, we had 42 storms, so we spent our winter budget. That's not enough of an explanation. I need more information so I can back up. That's all I'm saying, Jim. I'm not saying you ran off with the money.
as we sit here and look back, okay, to the budget process last fall and to last year, we had the big storm on Election Day last year that really put us behind the power curve in terms of budget. Based on not just that, but that event as well as other winter activity last year. We were behind the power curve coming into spring. We put the budget together this year. We put additional winter money in, and I did not go back and look at where we are relative to last year, but I think we're further behind than we were last year. And the weather has an impact there, but the fact that we've spent half of the whole year's budget in 3 months tells me that some of the stuff that we want to do in the summertime, like mowing and other stuff that we really need to do to maintain the quality of the roads and to increase the longevity, is going to get squeezed. So, you know, we put a budget together this year to support the need, and we already blew a big hole in it because of how the weather went. So, and I'm not saying that other towns aren't the same way, but the impact on the total, what we do on the roads in a year, is significant because we had to spend so much money in the wintertime. And all of this stuff that's gonna help us out going forward is gonna get squeezed. So how do we avoid this kind of a situation in the next year? Because if year after year after year, we can't do all the mowing that we need to, we can't do as much work on catch basins and that sort of thing.
We are getting driven into a town employee situation as opposed to a contract situation. I mean, I'm looking at, you know, $4,500, $4,600 a mile, or $4,600 a storm. Let's plug those numbers in. I mean, obviously, you're not out there doing all the plowing, you're hiring somebody to do that as well. Should we, or you're contracting some of it, I guess. So should we be looking at creating more permanent employment? I mean, I'd rather, for instance, if it's costing us $50 an hour for someone to plow, and we can hire the same capacity for $20 an hour, I mean, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but.
Yeah.
Your rate is $32 an hour, and that hasn't gone up in 9 years.
I thought there was a study already done on all this.
Well, obviously, the study isn't helping me out this year, is it?
Yeah, no, I meant, there was a study before, as far as it was hiring a full-time
Yes,
town
yes.
crew.
Several years ago, there was a Skip Hertz.
Yeah, Skip Hertz was telling me about it.
Yeah, okay, that was before I was
And it
involved
was
here.
quite a
but-
bit cheaper to continue on with what has been going on.
They made several suggestions. First of all, is that the road agent's position be changed to 3 years. That way you can buy a truck and budget for 3 years when you purchase it. So he had a lot of